Let's see. All right. And here we are.
We're live.
Sorry, we're a couple minutes late getting on here, but yes, class is officially in session for Accademia Giallo.
Back to school.
It is, yes. It's October, so yeah, maybe some schools are going back late. I don't know. However, I do know that it is Halloween season. It's spooky season. That means this is also a Scare-a-Thon or Scare-a-Thon adjacent episode. So we'll talk more about what all that means. But it's also, Halloween's coming up in a couple of weeks or 3 weeks. I can't do math. So this month we're dressing up. Accademia Giallo is dressing up as a non-Giallo movie. However, dressing up as a director who has been associated with Giallo and an Italian horror, certainly. Yes, we are talking about the 10th anniversary of Dario Argento's Dracula 3D, also known as Dracula 3D, also known as Argento's Dracula. This thing has like more names than Legion. But
I'm listening to hear the stretching sound of you forcing this movie into Accademia Giallo. It's very interesting. It's exciting.
Giallo is Italian for yellow.
Yes.
And I would maintain that this movie is piss poor. Wow. We might have I think we might have some dissent in here, and this is how actually I wanted to kick the class off, because I saw this movie 10 years ago at the Chicago International Film Festival. Of all places.
Prestige.
And when the movie opens, it opens with official selection Festival du Cannes. I'm like, wow,
that's right.
So it does have, it's got Dario Argento's name on it. It does have that air of prestige behind it. It's Dario Argento tackling Dracula. Oh my God, this is gonna be amazing. And it turned out, in some people's opinions, certainly mine, to not be. However, I know a lot more about Dario Argento's work than I did back when I first saw it. So I feel like this can be a really fun discussion. I did want to lead it off by asking, as we kind of go around the room, is there anybody who wants to defend this movie? Because I don't want this to be a one-way street of like, oh, this movie is terrible and it sucks because it's a vampire movie. But we can talk about all of it.
And don't everybody raise their hands.
No, I had a great experience watching this the first time. So
talk about it, dude.
So I'll say that much. So I had
he watched it with the Maestro present.
It was the perfect way to watch it. So I have that much to defend in that, I think it's entertaining, perhaps not all for the reasons that Mr. Argento intended, but I think it's a fun. Well, anyway, that's as far as I'll go. Brian, did you have any? Did you want to actually take a stance of defense on this one?
I mean, my only dog in the fight is Argento. Like, he's my favorite film director of all time. Dracula is a property that I'm very familiar with. So when I heard a long time ago, over 10 years ago, that he was indeed making a Dracula film, I was very excited. Yeah. And then I watched it. And then other feelings happened, and now here we are. So,
yeah. Kitley, how about you?
So I kind of like, to Brian's point, I was excited when I heard that and what he was going to do with it. And then when it came out, I didn't see it right away, but everybody was trashing it. So when I finally did get around to seeing it, I had extremely low expectations. So I would say at first, it's not god awful.
No, we've seen worse.
Right? No, wait a minute. Well, let me finish. Only because I expected the absolute worst. But especially in rewatching it again, it is not a good movie. And the biggest caveat to that is what makes it even sadder is that it is Dario Argento. If this was a full moon film, it would have been typical, cheesy entertainment. Right. But the fact that it's coming from Argento literally is like ripping your heart out.
John, is it worse than Veronica?
No.
There's that.
I have not seen Veronica, so I gotta. Yeah, that's the
imagine
the joint, right?
Argento's Dracula up here, and Veronica is somewhere in my basement.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a tease right there. I gotta go check that out. So first, before we get deep into the discussion, I just want to pull over for some comments. Jonas Hallberg, hi guys.
Hi, Jonas.
Glad to
Hi,
have
Jonas.
you here. And then Mrs. Chester, finally, you guys get to this travesty.
Travesty of film.
Well, I think yes, this is a good point to launch into, because when I first saw it, I think my problem was I don't even think I'd seen Suspiria at this point.
Wow.
So this I'm conflicted because I might have and just forgot about it, but this might have been my entry point into Argento.
Same cinematographer.
Not the same drugs.
Right.
Wow. But the thing is, like, he had this cachet about him, like, oh, I'm going to see this movie, an Argento film on the big screen. This is the best way to experience it. It's in 3D, which is kind of fun. But yeah, coming away from it, I just didn't understand anything about the hype, and I wasn't really interested in finding out more about him until we did Scuola Argento a number of years later. But watching it now, it's not as funny as I remember it. Parts of it are still, laugh out loud, but it is an hour and 46 minutes. And I think this might just be because it's an adaptation with some tweaks here and there of the Dracula story, which is a very languidly paced, film. I watched the, oh my God, Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula a little bit ago, and I was like, yeah, this movie it's all right, but it's, it's paced as it's paced, as they say. I feel like they could have chopped a lot of that runtime out and it would have been fine. But yeah, there's a lot of this movie's just kind of boring and kind of check your phone boring and look back at the screen if you feel like there's something you missed, but you probably haven't. But what is the biggest heartbreak for me is that it's Argento, but I was watching this with a lens to, if this had been the Argento of, say, opera, could he have pulled that off with that grand kind of gothic look and those performances? Because I think Thomas Kretschmann as Dracula has a really interesting take on the character. I think the Marta Gastini, who plays Mina Harker, I think she was pretty terrific, particularly towards the end. And there are moments in this that if they hadn't had that god-awful CGI, there really could have been something... Sorry, that god-awful practical effects. Nothing less for the Maestro. There really could have been something
this
here.
Sega CD quality CGI is just one for the records.
The opening scene with the credits is like this, town square, very static image, gray buildings and everything. I swear it looked like a desktop desktop background from like 1995 with these bad CG titles flying at you. And then when it goes through the village fly through, it made it even worse. How is that even possible?
So many things are possible when you've got Dario Argento at the helm.
Well, okay. Also, there's a bit where a character walks, I think it might have been Jonathan Harker, I could be wrong, walks into a barn or some kind of a rustic establishment, and they cut to a corner where there's a spider and a spider's web, and that's all CG. I'm like, how hard is it, wherever you're filming, I don't care what country you're in, find a place that has a barn or even a garage and just film the spider webs because they're there. What's going on?
I get the sense. And again, I don't know what's going on with Dario Argento these days, but I think he wanted to play with the CG. I don't think he'd had a fantasy film that he'd ever had the opportunity to use this kind of
cutting edge.
Yeah, well, and that's where I'm like 10 years ago, like, how bad was CGI back? But then I watched Freddy vs. Jason, which came out in 2003, and there's better CGI in that than there was in 2013. So there you go. Maybe Dario just didn't have the right toolbox. But I do think that, again, he's playing in a fantasy realm, which we haven't seen him do in quite a while. Not since the Phantom of the Opera, which was 98.
Look how good that was.
And again, it's like, so I'm not sure what he was going for, but that's the only explanation for a certain giant insect showing up, is that Dario was like, it'd be fucking great is this. And, I don't know if he was happy with the results or not. He may have been like, well, if that's the best we get, okay.
But Aaron, he hasn't put the spoiler banner up yet, so
I
I don't know
didn't
why you're
say
revealing
anything. I didn't say
giant insects.
anything. I didn't say anything.
Fine, if you want to call this a
There
Are we
we
jumping
go.
right? Are we
spoiled.
A
jumping
giant
right into
fucking
it?
praying mantis, people. Holy shit. Which so this is the thing, is that I go, Dario Argento's like, you ain't seen a Dracula like my Dracula. He turns into a praying mantis.
And
I'm
we
like,
haven't.
no,
like,
and that's right. And I'm kind of like, you know what? How did I phrase it? Let me cast my memory back to when I reviewed this, following my screening at the Brussels International Fantastic Film Festival. Okay, so here we go. I say the vivid color palette replicates Hammer's halcyon days, albeit with shoddier effects and 3D work that looks plucked from a child's classic lit cover, each plane as flat and artificial as the CGI fangs springing from Kretschmann's chompers. Speaking of keyboard magic, Argento takes the Count's shape-shifting abilities to jaw-dropping and forehead tattooing heights. From owls to wolves to swarms of flies to a giant, all caps, fucking praying mantis, this is one vamp who really likes to show off his supernatural wardrobe.
Look, here's what I was mentioning about if this had been the Argento of opera, and if he'd had these tools at his disposal, as you mentioned, because I'm thinking about what Alex Garland would go on to do 2 years after this with Ex Machina, creating just the CGI brain that Oscar Isaac holds in his hand, let alone what they did to make Alicia Vikander look like a half human robot.
Right.
He could have called, I'm sure, any number of people around the globe and be like, hey, you want to make a mantis for me? They would have been like, yes, I'll do that proverbial thing. If you let me read the phone book, I'll work for you for free because you're a legend.
Yeah.
But I like the idea of the mantis scene because it comes up the stairs. You see the shadow at first. There's the uncle figure who's kind of like sitting in the hallway, and it attacks him, right? But what's really nice is a second later, Mina comes out of her bedroom and she sees the mantis. I can't remember. I think there was a cut to the mantis, but as it approaches her, the shadow on the wall changes, and eventually, right when it gets on the door frame, it changes back into Dracula. Or it's not even like a transformation, like a CG thing. We just see Martin Kretschmann Thomas Kretschmann's shadow on the door, and then he swoops in to pick her up as she's about to pass out because she just saw this giant monster and a monster change into a man. I'm thinking, this is a really well conceived scene. It's just terribly executed. And I know that the man making this movie could have done this, 20, 30 years earlier.
Did you see the Italian cut or the American cut? Because there's a difference with the mantis scene.
I don't know. Whatever was on Amazon.
Tell me it's longer.
No, the Italian cut, the mantis is wearing leather gloves. So I don't know. I don't know if you guys, which version you guys want.
You got me. That was a trick and a treat.
Whenever Argento has a mantis, he's always playing the mantis. It's good to know.
He was also carrying a bottle of JD too, or J&B.
J&B, brother.
Yeah, J&B.
There it is. Right there. Not in the movie. Not a Giallo.
I think the problem with this film is much like to the aforementioned Veronica. I don't think Argento had anybody on the set saying, Dario, no, this isn't going to work. And I think that's how a lot of this stuff got through, because I cannot see Argento, the creator of Suspiria and Tenebrae and Deep Red, looking at the final edit and going, it's so good.
That's just the thing.
Someone had to have stepped in and said, Jesus, Dario, this looks like this isn't even a cartoon. It looks terrible. I'm all for the praying mantis. Hey, it's different. But everything else, including the acting for the most part, is just shoddy. It's literally on par with like a Full Moon Gingerbread Man movie or Ginger Dead, whatever the hell those are. I mean, it's sad to see this come from this master of cinema.
But you say that, John, and I'm sorry, AC, but
go ahead.
But like, okay, the creator of Deep Red, the creator of Suspiria, right? But he's also the creator of Giallo. He's also the creator of
Mother of Tears.
Mother. Well, I can't.
And what do we see in what's the common denominator in all of those?
It's later Argento.
Thank you.
Yeah. What do I get? Did I win?
It's a no price. Well, let's talk about this, because this is ostensibly a class, and I don't know that we have. I'd like to think that we can fill up a full hour talking about this movie, but I'm not convinced.
I got things to say.
Is there a synopsis?
It's Dracula, but told by Argento with cheap special effects and a couple of I'll say it, nice twists, particularly towards the end. But I do want to ask, because we were talking. I'm not as familiar with later stage Argento, because a lot of my education and talking with you, Aaron, and some of the rest of the panel on some of our subsequent shows has been his kind of like his golden period. Like, these are the movies he's known for and loved for. But the later period stuff, I don't know. What was the, we may have talked about it before, but what do you think was the cutoff point? Like the last train out of the station before
John's
going
to say trauma, right?
No, John is not. John's going to say
John going to say?
Opera. And then he had one moment of beauty in Sleepless. And after that, there are some okay films in his filmography, as far as I'm concerned, but nothing comparatively to the stuff he made in the late 80s or prior.
Well, and I don't think you could even say Sleepless is a great Argento, but it's good Argento. I wouldn't say it's classic Argento.
Compared to what the three films before that?
Agreed.
Yes.
But it sounds like there was a marked decline after this point.
Yes.
So historically, or from stuff you've read, or maybe interviews you've watched with him or people with scholars, what can account for this?
Explaining the why. Yeah.
I will say, like, if you look at it, like, I love Trauma. Okay. That's just me. I watched it at a very young age. Agia boobies and all. Like, I love that fucking movie. But I will say, like, entering the 90s, the Italian film industry as a whole was declining. You know, there was a lot of made-for-TV films. There was a lot of productions that, like, lost their funding or whatever. So a lot of these masters were still working, but they weren't really making as much output as they were in the 70s, 80s, in terms of the caliber of, like, budgetary and all that stuff, you know? So as a whole...
They didn't have the budget either.
Well, yeah, that's what budgetary means, my friend. But
I apologize, Brian. I'll just be over here.
But no,
I want to come with you if you're going over there.
But no, like look at some of the Italian films that came. Like, I think Suave. If you look at all the Italians that were making films like during that era, Suave is really the only one that you kind of lean towards, because he was still making some, like, pretty decent, like, interesting stuff, you know. But as far as the entire industry, I think it was just kind of taking a nosedive at that point, and Argento was no, you know, exception. Like, his output was kind of all over the place. And yes, like, Sleepless is I would say it's a good movie. It's a good Dario Argento production. But everything after that, like, I just feel that, you know, like, okay, this film, he works with Claudio Simonetti. He works with Tivoli, who was also the cinematographer for Suspiria, as I mentioned. Like, he's kind of got the gang back together, right? Stivoletti's in it, yes. And yet we see,
and he's got Asia. Oh wait, every time he has Asia, that's
what are you
not
kidding? Asia is
No,
Oscar caliber in this film.
She's great, not in this movie, and not in any movie she's done with her dad.
Wait, when you say Oscar caliber, you mean she could have been in that Sylvester Stallone movie from 1991?
That is a perfect example.
Also, that's a really good movie, so don't pick on Oscar.
Hey, look, I saw that movie once, and I still remember it fondly. But, you know, it was a cheap joke. I was going to make an Oscar the Grouch reference, but, you know.
Just too many people pound on that movie, and I'm like, Oscar?
Really?
Oh, no, Oscar gets picked on all the time. But anyway.
Dude, I just sidebar. I saw Oscar at a Dollar Theater double feature in 1991 with Defending Your Life. And man, that was a
That
hell of
is
an
a
afternoon.
solid double feature there.
Yes.
Yeah.
John's reaction is everything right now.
Was Defending Your Life after Oscar? Because that would totally make sense for that lineup that way.
I don't remember it.
Defending your Oscar.
Defending your choice of pictures,
Defending
maybe.
your
but-
movies.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, but I do want to say again, agitation free. Welcome. Says
Yes.
trauma is awesome.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
I agree, and I think the movie is great too. No, we actually did an
Wow.
episode on
Sure,
trauma
we sure
at some
did.
point. Yeah.
Yes, we did.
But
yes,
let's see.
we did.
Oh wait, do you like Hitchcock? Thoughts? Wait. Oh, that's another movie. I know that reference.
I enjoy
I'm
that
Captain
one.
America.
I enjoy that film.
I would say it's one of his better later
okay.
day films,
It's
but
okay.
that's not, that's like choosing between
When you're looking
McDonald's
at the-
over.
Well, when you're looking at the card player in Giallo, it's like, yeah, do you like Hitchcock? Looks pretty good.
Yeah.
Wait,
Exactly.
John, I want you to finish your thought because I'm very interested in your comparison. It's like choosing between McDonald's and what?
I don't want to call any sponsors that you may have later. I don't want to throw them to the woods.
We do
so-
have the red and yellow theme going on here. But anyhow,
Very true.
but no, that's the quandary because I'm curious as to why I watched this film, Argento's Dracula, we're talking about again now, and I don't feel like this is a director whose heart isn't in it. But to some earlier points about, he was trying to experiment, play around with CG, that's fine. But I think that's something you do on like a demo. Like you're Dario Argento, you can probably afford to make a movie that is experimental that nobody sees, or it's a DVD
And he
extra or
has.
something until you perfect it.
Yeah.
Oh, he has.
Yeah.
Tell me
That's
about that.
Yeah. No, but like he's
No, not
He's
this,
played-
but okay.
he's always been a fan of playing with new technology and stuff,
Yeah.
which is confounding to like, what is this? You know what I
Well,
mean?
it's I mean,
and this is from what I've read, this is a passion project of it. It's always been like
Right,
he's
he's
always
wanted
wanted
to
to do a Dracula like movie since way back when. So it's when this came out and when this was first received and when I first watched it, it was like, what's going on here, man?
Yeah.
Like, what's?
I mean, I have to wonder, like, was he disappointed in the movie, and was he just kind of like, this is what I can do with the money I have, and we've already shot blah blah blah. But like I feel it's akin to Mother of Tears, in that it's an energetic train wreck, and it's watchable, but maybe not always for the right reasons. Going back to my original review, it's like he's got boobs, he's got blood, he's got beasts, and he hasn't lost the energy to want to do innovative cinema. I just don't know that he's actually doing anything that's innovative. He's just kind of like throwing stuff at the screen and like praying for the best.
Praying for the best. Praying best.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Is like there are some, I think, definite Argento touches. Like there are a couple of the death scenes. There are some flashes, some moments in those murders that I think are really, kind of harken back to what he's done. Some of the bodies that people come across, they're like, oh, that's I could see that at the back of a VHS, one of the VHS stills from like the 1970s. But the rest of it, I mean, you mentioned a train, AC. There's a bit where Jonathan Harker gets into town, and I'm watching this. It's almost like watching like Color Forms or Presto Magics or something from the 80s, where you just like paste everything into the scene.
Yeah.
And the train, I swear, the train was CGI. The smoke, the steam was definitely After Effects. And so I'm just like looking for the cutout of like where he came through the giant green, like the green wall, and like stepped down into some steps to walk out into the village.
The sound design, right? Like we met. So I will also throw in there that John, AC, and I all watched this together.
I'm aware.
Friday.
I'm aware.
Friday night, yeah.
and we mentioned all along, like the sound design is actually fucking great in this movie. Like the hissing of the train, the
crunching,
everything.
and
everything's great. Like in terms of sound design, like I would actually argue it
In other
deserves
words,
an Oscar nod for just the sound design.
in other words, the film's got a really good personality.
yeah.
Okay. Now I got to pull over again here, Brian. I might have to kick you off the stream for just a couple of minutes. This is like for your own
Wow.
protection.
Wow.
Okay, I'll leave you on, but just be cordial.
He
Big
got
Swifty
nervous.
says, "Hey guys, not going to make any friends here, but I think Argento is the weakest Giallo director out of the Giallo Mount Rushmore: Bava, Martino, Lenzi, Fulci, Argento."
That is a bold statement. Well said, sir.
Can I respond to that, please?
Yes. After I kick you off the stream, respond into the void, and then you can come back into the room. You gotta go out in the hall.
I'll message, like, after you kick me out, I'll come back and I'll message my response in the chat.
You and Big Swifty will just
Dude, I know Big Swifty from the Giallo Room days.
Yeah.
He's always taken that stance, and I can't like disagree with him. Like in terms of Giallo, in terms of just Italian Giallo films, I would agree.
Yeah.
I would agree.
Right.
Like there's other directors that are doing much more interesting things, like within the within their experiences or whatever. But Argento, you can't argue Argento. When he stepped into the Giallo arena, he brought something brand new. It's not like he was, just ripping off like Bava and all that. Although certain things he was definitely riffing off of Bava stuff. But I will argue that he brought something brand new to the landscape where people were like scrambling to just kind of match him. So I would say that he's one of the more iconic filmmakers overall of all time in terms of the Mount Rushmore of like Italian filmography or whatever. But I will also say that, yes, I agree. Like, I think, freaking Martino was doing amazing stuff with Giallo or whatever. Sure. Now you fast forward to now, and you're thinking like, yes, Argento was a great filmmaker, and he utilized a lot of technology, and he did a lot of cool stuff, and he brought in like a lot of his own crew in terms of music and cinematography and the actors and whatever, and special effects guys that helped him push that particular vision into the forefront and set new ideas and things into motion that would later inspire other filmmakers and whatnot. You know what I mean? A lot of people always go back and say Argento was the inspiration for me getting into film. Now, I would wonder, like, if somebody brand new that's getting into film watches Dracula 3D and gets inspired. Of course not, right? Like, he's definitely had a tipping point where the latter side of his career is nothing equivalent to his earlier work. But watching this the other night with you guys, there's some interesting things in this film. There's the thing that kind of took me aback, and I mentioned it to you guys, like there's a lot of like fucking blatant sex and like Cinemax like caliber stuff.
Yeah, that shot in the barn scene particularly.
So roll in the hay,
it made me wonder, like, what's he doing? Like, is he trying to stay relevant? Is he like kind of going overboard to try to stay relevant, like with all this stuff? But at the same time, it's like, but you're one of the world's greatest filmmakers, but you're playing in a sandbox that's so limiting and it's so like inept. Like it just, I don't know. It almost makes me wish that I brought a one sheet of this when I first met him to sign, just to see what his reaction would have been. But I that long-winded thing retort to Big Swifty. I agree in terms of the Giallo Mount Rushmore. In terms of overall Italian filmmaking, let's get in the ring and box.
I don't know that you necessarily would have to fight him on that, but yeah, I didn't pick up on the weakest Giallo director. I breezed right past that. But yeah, so in terms of like the overall Italian, horror and thrillers, for sure, he's the maestro. But for Giallo, yes, that's definitely, I think, well argued on your part, Brian, or kind of like agreeing and being amicable about it. You get to stay in class. But let's talk about that poster, because you've got this, a big headshot of someone who's supposed to be Thomas Kretschmann. And then you've got Dario Argento as Lucy, not even Mina. And as we've seen with other Argento films, he loves his daughter, and somehow I'm thinking he loves her a little bit too much, because I was really uncomfortable watching some of this stuff. I'm just it takes me out of the movie. The CG takes me out of the movie because I'm like, this is really bad. What were they thinking? But then some of those other scenes, especially with Agia in various states of undress and doing things, I'm like, what is he thinking? What is she thinking? Is this weird for anybody, or is it like, it's Italians?
Totally not weird.
No. Well, I'm not talking about the end result, Brian, which I'm sure you appreciate on several levels. But yeah, it's just it was a bit like, especially because I don't. This is going to get me kicked out of my own show. I think my favorite Asia Argento performance that I've seen was when she was in Triple X alongside Vin Diesel. Yeah,
nothing to do with Argento.
Right.
Yeah.
Land of the
You're
Dead.
agreeing with me? I thought I was going to get yelled at.
No. I don't think she's done a good performance for her dad yet. She's
I liked her in Stendhal.
I was going to say she's good in the first half of Stendhal Syndrome, but then the rest, the movie kind of like goes off the rails halfway through. Because I remember watching Stendhal Syndrome and going, wait, why didn't I like this? I think this is actually good. And then it hits that halfway point. You're like, oh, that's right, because it sucks. And
it does not suck.
It kind of sucks for the second half.
It doesn't.
Yeah. But what I
once the grouper shows up, the fucking grouper, and she kisses the group. It's like it's a.
Wait, are you talking about like a fish?
Yes. Once, we're not putting that one on this show, by the way.
We are. We so are.
No.
I'd love to discuss that one.
What I do want to say though is that the fact that it was a official selection at Cannes, that it played at almost every genre film festival, I'm kind of saddened by that, because that's the festival people playing the Argento card. It's like, we know people will come out to see this Argento Dracula, but there's not a single one of those people on that panel who watched it and went, this is a good movie. This is representative of our festival. This is what I want to show. And I really, that frustrated me, because I saw it at the Brussels International Fantastic.
Like, how was that reception?
So here's the thing: the BIFF crowd, Brussels International Fantastic Film Festival, the BIFF crowd is notoriously rowdy, and sometimes filmmakers are like, "Oh my God," they're like yelling at my movie, and they're like, "No, it's okay." They love to react with it, but it doesn't mean they don't like your movie. So Argento,
God, you're setting this up so brilliantly.
Argento comes out and he introduces the film. We're all like, "Yay, we're excited!" And then he goes off and has dinner. He's not in the theater when the movie's screening, and we know this. And the audience is losing their freaking minds. We are howling. We are like every awful thing that comes across.
How was the praying mantis? Like when that?
Oh, seriously, I think I died and was resuscitated. Because it was so like, again, I think it's amazing in that nobody could possibly have expected a praying mantis.
No. Was this any of 3D and everything, right?
But nobody expected that praying mantis in particular. We're just like, wait, what is happening?
Did you see it with the 3D glasses and all that?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
How was it in 3D? I've never seen it.
Well, all the coming at you stuff and the depth. I mean, it's a decent 3D movie in terms of that, in that there's a lot of layers there. So again, one more thing, Argento playing with new technology. But anyway, so yeah, we're all basically just dying but enjoying it because it's so hilarious. So when Argento comes back in, the crowd goes wild. It's like, yeah. And Dario's like, hey, thank you. You're liking my movie. And it's like, no, we didn't. But oh my God, we love that we got to watch that movie here and that you weren't around to hear us laughing. Because when we saw Veronica over at the Music Box,
I was just going to say,
it was so uncomfortable because Danzig is there and we're all like, And it would have been so much better if he hadn't been there. We could have just like laughed our asses off and been like, "Hey, Danzig, thanks for a great time."
Oh no, people were laughing roarously out loud.
Yes, yeah.
Well,
and then Danzig comes on stage and he's like, usually, with these horror movies, usually I hear laughter because of nervousness, because of it's a horror movie.
We were nervous.
Like he was so delusional.
Oh,
So,
man.
but then you got the language barrier with Argento, right?
Yeah,
So that's
yeah.
a whole different level.
Yeah. But yeah, Argento, I mean, again, it was a great experience. Like I would not trade that experience for anything, because it was just unfettered bliss. But it was never a good movie. And watching it again a second time, you know, at home, not in 3D with, you know, John, Brian, and Aaron, it's kind of like, yeah, I wish this could have been better, you know.
So
and
it wasn't like a raucous, like fun time.
you know what? It's not. I don't think it's terrible enough to be funny. Like it is, like John said, I think it's just kind of like a full moon, low budget. It feels like a low budget affair. And yeah, I think Thomas Kretschmann is trying something, but I don't think it's interesting. I think it's pretty one note. It's kind of like, I'm sour and I'm very growly today, you know?
Well, that's kind of what I liked about it. The scene where he bursts into the
Oh my God!
village
That's
hall
the
or
only
whatever.
good. That's the only good.
Right, where he
scene.
takes out all those people, but the last person to buy it is the gendarme, I'll call him, the guy with the mustache, who he forces to shoot himself.
The guy with the mustache.
Well, he looks like a French transplant.
You know who he's talking about.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, but he forces him to take the pistol and you know, blow his head off, and we get to see the slow motion of the bullet go up through the chin, up through the roof of the mouth, and then the splatter, which is fine. But I was really paying attention to what Kretschmann was doing, because he was almost like not looking at him, like he was, oh, I got to finish this guy off, but I also got to make some plans to do something else. He was almost distracted. And that was a mode that usually you see them, you know, the vampires, whoever's like doing the mind control, like really focusing, but he was almost, there was something in that performance that I think was very sad. Now, there was a sad performance, but there was a real melancholy to him that I think, I'll say it. I think the idea rivals what Gary Oldman was doing in that.
The concept,
yes. The concept,
the idea,
yes.
Yeah. But again, he's got Argento behind the camera, not Coppola, and so I mean, performance has never been Argento's strong point. You know, he kind of gets interesting people to do interesting things, but I don't think he knows how to coax a performance. I mean, God knows he hasn't gotten one out of Asia yet. You know, like I don't think he knows how to coax a performance. Which again, let's go to Rutger Hauer. I'm like,
I was just going to say,
I was just going to mention Rutger.
Like, what is Rutger doing? I'm like, again, kind of to your point, Ian, this is a Dracula from Argento. You know it's going to get some play. And Rutger Hauer just like shows up like he's sleepwalking. I'm like, wait, you haven't had a hit in a while, my friend. Like, this should be an opportunity for you. Like, why aren't you, pardon the expression, sinking your teeth into this? But he doesn't.
Didn't he do Hobo with a Shotgun around that time?
I think it's the year before.
So technically, he has had a hit. You know, he's coming off of True Blood. He's doing Hobo with a Shotgun.
Is it a hit? It's a yeah.
Dude, when I was doing Film Deviant, it was like muchly discussed. Like people were all over that shit. And I watched that film in the theater, and it was so much goddamn fun. So it was like, you know, I wouldn't say it was like a smash hit or whatever, but I would say that like it definitely reminded people of Rutger Hauer. You know.
It could have been.
And this one made him forget him.
This could have been a prestige.
Back into the.
This could have been a prestige pick for Rutger Hauer. I mean, in concept, it was never going to be because the rest of the movie is happening around him. But he doesn't show up with a performance either, so he just kind of like further sinks the ship.
It's an hour and 46 minutes or whatever. Really, an hour 40. You know, with
really
end
3 hours.
Well, what I'm saying is he shows up. I wrote this down because I'm like, oh shit, I forgot Rutger Hauer's in this movie. He shows up an hour and 12 minutes into the movie, and his character isn't even mentioned. I will say the Hobo with the Shotgun, I don't remember caring for that movie. I remember that was like part of the whole like grindhouse scene, like we're gonna have this fake trailer make it into a full movie. I do want to point out, are you guys aware that Thanksgiving is actually a movie that's coming out? I didn't know about that until like last week. I was so happy. However, Rutger Hauer, I agree that he's very kind of low energy, but I did like this element to his backstory, which I don't think I've seen before, which is that he was like the head of a mental institution in a different country, and he discovered vampirism when he actually found Dracula like gnawing on one of his patients and then he
Yeah.
escaped. I'm like, that's a really interesting idea. And I almost would have wanted to see, like, I can imagine Peter Cushing doing that in a Hammer Dracula film, like Van Helsing Origins, and exploring that. I like the idea that there is this history between the two, and that he was kind of world weary. He's traveling all over, dealing with this kind of scourge. So it's not a big performance. It is very low key, but I'm kind of okay with that because there's so much bigness going on in the rest of the film that this, I think, offered a bit of balance.
Well, you got a low key Dracula and you got a low key Van Helsing, and you're just kind of like, and that's where I go. Argento doesn't know, he doesn't know how to balance that.
Well, I did mention this to you guys when we were watching it, like, because at some point Dracula like walks out and he's like, listen to them, the creatures of. So it's like, okay, like we're going back and adapting the actual source material, because that's on point, and then like the praying mantis shows up, and then that backstory to Van Helsing, like he does do some really interesting different things with the source material, but like I just wish that it pains me to say this, okay? Like please, like everybody that's watching this, understand that I fucking love. Like I once mentioned during an Argento review, long time ago, that I would want to marry Agia just to have the Argento last name. Like I would change my name to Argento. But
I hate to tell you this, Brian, but you could legally change it now.
Yeah, but it would be
just
weird.
Throwing that out there. Like, it would be weird. That would be weird.
But no, I'm just simply.
Well, you could even do like a weird hyphenate. You could kind of switch and do Brian Argento Martinez.
But no,
so you could be Bam.
I'm just illustrating how much I love the guy. Now, if he was a bit more competent during making this film, because I feel like I don't understand where we went wrong. If this is a passion project, if he's got the band together, if everybody's willing to be like, oh, Argento doing a Dracula movie, let me get on that. Like everybody was excited for this, and then we get this, and it's like, what the fuck happened? Yeah. Like I'm still perplexed. Like watching this again after 10 years, it's like, dude, what happened,
well, that's what's so frustrating is you do have those moments.
Yeah.
And where you're like, wait a second, they're like, if you had threaded enough of those interesting moments together, you could have had something pretty incredible. Yeah. Like I remember you pointing out when we were watching, Brian, like that scene in the jail where you see Dracula talking to his Renfield character, and then you see him not there, and you're just kind of like, I don't even know what that is, but it's interesting.
Yes.
And I had to scrub back to that because I think it's not that he's not there. It's just when he's looking, the reverse shot, like of Renfield looking through the bars, like at us, we are at that point Dracula. It's not that we should see someone like up,
no,
Dracula bars Renfield.
Dracula's inside the. I mean, I think it's deliberately that we're not seeing him.
But it's making you think.
Sorry, I thought he was outside the bar.
Oh. It's definitely. It's making you think about the entire thing, where it's like, some of the other stuff in the film.
So
also,
here,
it was a mirrored cell. There you go.
Being the older statesman here.
Go ahead, pull that card.
There is a combination of things, like Brian mentioned, as far as in the early 90s or mid 90s, the Italian film industry bottomed out. So Argento didn't have the clout and the money and the power that he had. So he was struggling to get films made from that point on. So that is going to change things. You also there's other Italian directors that ran into the same thing, that created these masterpieces in the 70s or even before that, such as Lucio Fulci. But when they got really popular, their budget was stolen. And again, the industry went into toilet. So when you come through his filmography, I don't want to say from the beginning, but at least midway into the latter part of his glory days, and then you experience what comes after that, it's depressing because you love this talent and you love and respect this director. And to see him turn out stuff like Trauma and Stendhal Syndrome and especially Phantom of the Opera, you always go into it with high hopes. But then you see the Dracula and you're like, I'm saddened that this is coming from the same guy that gave us Deep Red and Suspiria. So again, if this was not Argento, I wouldn't think it's a great movie, but it would have been, it was different.
Really?
But when you see that it's coming, like I said, on par with like Full Moon or some of those.
But no, like if it didn't have the Argento name attached, you would be like, oh, this is actually not bad.
I didn't say it would be great. I just said
but you said it wasn't. It wasn't bad.
It would have been bad if I could paraphrase or interject. Bad, but not depressing. I think that's
the element that really sticks with me. Is you're watching someone. I mean, it's kind of like if you were to see Van Gogh painting with crayons and a. Actually, that would still be good. Comparatively, it's just that's my whole point. It's just these guys were icons at one point. And for a variety of reasons, I don't want to say that Argento just didn't have the talent anymore, but I think a lot of his the stuff that he had access to dissipated.
But I guess that's where I go. What did happen?
Right.
Like why? What talent doesn't just disappear?
Specifically,
budget. It had to have been budget.
We know all sorts of independent, directors who know how to make the most of it, and
he did. Like there were moments in his previous movies where it's like he's definitely like utilizing. Yes, he's had some bigger budgets, but he's definitely like leaving no detail uncovered or what. Like he's utilizing every aspect of filmmaking in his previous work, and then you arrive at this, and it's like seriously, Aaron, I'm with you. I'm like, what the hell happened? Like
as I mentioned when we were watching this the other night, that much like to Veronica, there's probably not too many people on the set telling Dario this isn't
that's
working.
Probably true. That's probably true.
Here's one. It's impossible to go back and rewrite history, but if I were to do that, I would think, okay, if you're down on your luck, it's the late 2010s. You want to get this project off the ground that you've had such passion for. If you've got these limited resources, come to the States. You could knock on Eli Roth's door. You could talk to Jason Blum, who's high on the paranormal activity train. I'm sure that they could set you up with your own division or your own talented like cast and crew. Certainly better CG animators to get this stuff done than do like a co-production. Can you imagine? I mean, Blumhouse I don't think really was around at that point, but if you could say like Eli Roth presents Dario Argento's Dracula or something.
Did we
like
know
that.
the budget to this film? I don't know.
I
didn't
forgotten. I think it's not a lot. I mean, but it's something like it's probably between 15 and 20 million.
But even that, I mean, and possibly some of this comes down to ego. But you think about what Blum was doing back at that point, and why Paranormal Activity became such a smash hit, is being able to take a big concept, shoot it dirt cheap, so that like you make all of your money back after like the first preview screening, right? So I feel like there would have had to have been like a learning curve and possibly some humility on Argento's part. Again, I'm just like hypothesizing. No. But if he were to get with a mega producer to say, look, this movie that you have mapped out, it was going to cost you 60 million in Italy or whatever it was. I can do it for 15. We can make it really sharp, but you're going to have to do this and this and this, and maybe get him back to, because he didn't have all the money in the world when he was making the films.
7.7 million.
Oh, okay.
See,
was the budget.
That's really shocking to me. I mean, not based on the results. I'm just thinking about what a Jason Blum could have done with that budget, possibly even getting him double that budget to make it really sing. Right. I don't know. Let
me add real quick, Ian, to your point. As far as coming here, he did that with Trauma, and that didn't go over well for him. And nothing against the movie. He had a lot of battles with the producers, so he probably
he did that with Giallo too, right? Wasn't that supposed to be? Because like I think that's the reason why
Adrian Brody did it.
If he did, again, end product didn't prove to be a positive result. So maybe that's why he never thought about trying to do that angle.
Yeah, that's again, you guys are much well versed on this stuff than I am. I'm but a humble student, but I like to imagine what could have been. Because again, watching this, I picked up on a number of things that I hadn't quite caught the first time because I was in shock about the schlock. But I'm watching this like there's something in here. It's buried very, very deep. But I think if there was someone to take this and remake it earlier, I don't know if it was you, Brian, or AC, but they'd said like if you were to watch this movie as an aspiring filmmaker, it wouldn't inspire you to make movies.
That was me.
Okay. I disagree because I feel like if you watch this movie and it's from legendary, feature director Dario Argento, I feel like someone could say, I can make a better movie than this.
No, I agree.
True.
It's that kind of art that is also inspiring just for different reasons.
Right. Yeah, so we're kind of coming down to the hour here, and
really,
I know it's flown by,
but like I remember looking at it like, I don't know, I think we were 20 minutes in, we were like, holy shit, we got another 40 minutes to talk about this goddamn movie.
But I do want to, there's two things I want to talk to you about before we get to the last couple of comments, and we're going to talk about Scare-a-Thon. But the twist, the differences, I did like that Jonathan Harker buys it. He gets turned into a vampire and has to be put down.
Yep.
I did like that in the kind of the final confrontation, the graveyard scene with Van Helsing and Dracula, and Mina is there and she gets bitten and it's kind of like seduced by Dracula. I was almost thinking if this had been a darker, different kind of film, that they would have teamed up to kill Van Helsing, and they end up just being those eternal lovers that he had always Dracula had imagined that they should be, because the reincarnation of the dead wife and all that. Unfortunately, it goes the way it goes, and it's kind of a happy ending. The giant dirt CGI wolf coming up at the end, what was that about? So let me guess, he comes back literally 2 minutes after he's quote unquote vanquished. What is this movie? It's
like the final boss when you're playing it on the Sega CD. You think you kill him, right? And then he comes back as like this weird dirt wolf,
Dirt Wolf needs to be the name of a metal band.
Right.
And Argento's Dracula themed metal band.
I'm still going with Ozzy's Boobies as a punk metal band.
Ozzy's Boobies?
Yeah.
Ozzy's Boobies.
Boobies, yeah, you got
the boob.
Is that like an umlaut? Wait, that's German. Okay. All right, so let's go through these comments real quick. This is from a little bit ago. Kiss the goat. I mean the grouper. Did anyone go further with the grouper than that, or just the kiss? Because I'm into
just the kiss.
I'm into grouper sex movies.
Well, Erica Gavin and Vixen does a little bit more with her fish than.
Is it a grouper though?
It's not a grouper. It's not a grouper.
Because we're discussing groupers here, Aaron.
Specifically.
Okay.
Wow. Good point, Brian. Bird is great, and the other two animal films are decent. Suspiria is his masterpiece, great Italian director, but I was specifically speaking of Giallo. You guys are the best. Well, thank you. Big Swifty, you're the best.
You are the best, Big Swifty.
And Rutger Hauer is so boring in this. Yeah. Okay, maybe I was just caught up in the beautiful crags of his weathered face that I let a lot go, because he looks great in this.
But he isn't asked to do anything really. Like if you think about it, like he
succeeds.
Van Helsing, but it's not like he's like tasked to do different things,
But
he's only in the movie for like 25 minutes.
Right.
And he could have been great. He could. That's the thing. Like Rutger Hauer has the ability to be great, and I was like, I don't know if Argento sat on him and said, don't do anything. We want to be really low key. Or if Rutger's just like, where's my paycheck? Where's my trailer? I'll see you later. I just don't get it. Like, I don't understand why he didn't deliver the Van Helsing goods.
He did kind of have that same disposition as he did in that Batman movie where it's like, did you get the memo?
Before Ian reads this next comment, I'm just going to do this. But go ahead.
Yep.
Oh, nice.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Big Swifty. I appreciate that.
All right. So, John, the last Discover the Horror podcast on Herschel Gordon Lewis was awesome. Made my drive to St. Pete Beach bearable. Shameless plug.
All right, Brian, sorry. Brian, stand up again, because why can I see through you?
Yeah, why? Is it like a green screen thing?
Have you talked to him before?
He's not good at lying.
I'm like, Brian is so translucent now.
Yeah. You can see...
Who knew that these T-shirts could do that?
You can see the poster behind me.
That's freaking me out.
It's weird.
Anyway,
Jonas says, "Have you guys seen The Strange Color of Your Body's Tears and Amor?" No.
Yes, I have.
Yes,
oh my God, yes, I love those movies.
We could talk about those.
We should. Dude, let's do Strange Color for the next show. Or for
do you like Strange Color? Do you like Strange Color or Mare? Which one do you like better? I like a Mare a lot.
I like them both.
But I think you're right though, because Strange Color is more Giallo.
Yeah.
A Mare just has the segment that's Giallo.
And there's also what's that? The Barbarian Sound Studio thing.
Oh, Barbarian Sound Studio. Yeah.
Yeah. There's also that one.
Well, we're talking about Strange Color next month. I've officially written it down.
Okay.
Right.
I'm down. I got to take a lot of drugs before I watch that one again.
You mean even more? Anyway, thanks, guys. Thank you for all the great Scare-a-Thon videos this month, AC, which brings us... oh, my God.
Yes, what a great segue.
Transition master.
Wow.
Yes.
Ian paid this guy to do
Agitation free.
The Sultan of Segways, agitation free.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about Scare-a-Thon. AC, how's it going? Give us the pitch for Scare-a-Thon 2023.
Great. We are 8 days in as of today, and we have raised over $2,000. Which is wonderful. Thank you all. And really, thank you for Agitation Free for the comment. It has been it's been a real labor of love, because we're trying to do a movie a day, every day, and putting all these great panels together and just hearing all these different voices from really all over the world. It's really been a lot of fun, and we're focusing on watching, mostly newer releases, from the 2020s on. But it's all in service of raising money for the Women's Reproductive Rights Assistance Project, WRAP, WRRAP. But yeah, anybody who wants to swing by the Horror 101 with Dr. AC YouTube channel, any of the Scare-a-Thon videos have the link to donate in the description. So please click and contribute, and know that you have my thanks, as well as the thanks of my panelists. Much appreciated. And thank you, Ian, for providing a great showcase for it.
Well, I'm always honored to be part of Scare-a-Thon, and you've been doing great work in the last decade. And this has been a lot of fun. And yeah, we found a way to stretch a Dracula 3D conversation to just about an hour. So we've done heroic work here, I think.
Did we talk about any of the good, or like why we chose to watch?
You
this
did
movie,
mention
or...
Azia. Well, the actress who played Tanya, the role in the Hey Girl. Yeah, she was great.
Yeah, she was awesome. Actually, she
got a lot more screen time than I thought, and I did like the fact that Dracula kind of sent her out to be, a body to be thrown at.
Rude.
Was that who killed her? Was that Van Helsing or Harker?
Yeah, no, it was Van Helsing.
That was okay.
Harker didn't do Jack.
No,
well, because she got vanquished. She got thrown across the room and became like a CG dummy in like a very seamless transition.
That was Dracula who did that.
Right. Okay.
And that amazing burn effect, like when they die.
So you have been taking drugs.
Have another, Brian.
Explains a lot.
All right. Well, thank you to my.
Weird. I do not understand what's happening right now.
I don't either. I think on the playback, it's going to be a normal shirt. Something about it's haunted. All right. Well, thank you guys out there. This has been Accademia Giallo, our Halloween / Scare-a-Thon special, a little bit early in the month. But I am Ian Simmons of Kicking the Seat. We have AC from Horror 101 with Dr. AC. We have Kitley from Kitley's Crypt and Discover the Horror podcast. And we have Brian from the Giallo Room. And there's the shirt again. We will be back next month talking about apparently Strange Color of Your...
Body's Tears.
Body's Tears. I couldn't even read my own handwriting on this sticky note. Okay, what's that movie even about?
About an hour and a half.
About an hour and a half.
It never gets old.
It never does.
Of like literally making love to every Giallo theme that you can ever think of, basically.
Yeah, it's pretty fantastic.
Is Edwidge Fenwick in it?
I mean, there's somebody named Edwidge, so.
Oh, it doesn't really count unless, I haven't seen her yet. Anyway, but thanks everybody. Please like and subscribe to this channel if you liked and want to subscribe to for more Kicking the Seat goodness. Also, be sure and support Scare-a-Thon and WRAP via the link down below. And also check out AC's Horror 101 channel. too many channels. And like and subscribe to all of my talented guests. They're great folks. And join us back here next month for another Accademia Giallo we're almost through the end of the year. It's crazy,
Yeah,
but
crazy, right?
yeah, it's gonna be so much fun. Probably not as fun as this conversation, because wow. But until next time, whenever that is, whatever that is, thank you everybody out there who joined in live or in the future. Brian, keep your shirt on, please. Thank you and take care.
Bye.
Bye.